What's going on, gamers? This is going to be an interesting video because it's going to be about the concern for Microsoft trying to go exclusive on Xbox to a certain degree, because we know 98% or a high percentage of games that were announced at the showcase. Like some people were saying it was the second state of play. They're kind of funny, but Microsoft still did a really good job on that state of play. But the thing here is that if this is going on and you're trying to push me a certain message, why are we doing this? And let's talk about this. What am I talking about? Gears of War being exclusive? Clockwork, I'm not worried about that right now. But what are we talking about? Demand for Xbox consoles is currently outstripping supply. Here's my thing. I think when Microsoft makes a move, and I want you to think about this, like Asha, it was a last second move to make Gears exclusive. Before you do that, you should have already had, and this was even before Gears, your consoles mass supplied and massively in stock with $100 off minimum, maybe $150, so that people can get in your ecosystem again. Hear me out here. And have a couple months of Game Pass included with that to play your games. Why is the demand for Xbox consoles currently outstripping supply? This shouldn't be no problem at all. You can't even outsell the Switch 1. What do you mean? I'm not trying to be an a-hole here. I'm being serious. What do you mean? When did the demand shoot that high? Because when Forza launched, you should have had limited edition Forza Horizon 6 bundles. You know how you saw that Xbox 25th anniversary? There should have been a Forza Horizon 6 Xbox limited edition bundle and a Series X S version. And Xbox consoles being $100 off for 3 months of Game Pass. This is the moves you have to make if you want to make Xbox better. But you didn't do any of that because this is not about hardware. This is literally about talking good to you, trying something at the last minute, and then thinking that your move is going to do well because you're catering to a small leftover niche base. And I'm not trying to downplay Xbox exclusives. I'm not trying to downplay the Xbox consoles. I'm specifically saying that if you do something, Microsoft, do it to the full content to where you're executing at a high degree, meaning that Xbox consoles are $100 off right now. Xbox consoles are $100 off for 3 months of Game Pass. Xbox consoles are $100 off for 3 months of Game Pass with Forza Horizon 6 launch and limited edition sitting over here. And then I just outsold PlayStation. If you have that type of media moving, then it makes people say, okay, you know what? Not just in the UK, because the UK market is so small, but also in the USA. Japan, forget about it. There's nothing you can do about that. Even Sony, look, man, even Sony put the price down so like low and made a PlayStation 5 Japanese only model, and Nintendo was still stumping. Japanese are different. They're a different breed. You know what I mean? But when we think about the dominance of Xbox 360, they were still weren't even selling much in Japan. Do you guys remember that commercial in Japan? What is an Xbox? When they asked that one person, he didn't even know. But Xbox was dominating so bad in the United States of America, and it was doing so well in the UK and the rest of the world, the Western world, that you didn't really need that because you were representing that American identity that was so strong. But when I see demand for Xbox consoles is currently outstripping supply, I'm like, what are we doing here? If Asha wants to make a difference, you need to be professionally involved with manufacturing. You need to have more mass manufacturing going, and you need to have deals that are cheaper than PlayStation. You're still so far behind, you don't have a choice but to do this. Matthew Ball, we are producing them as quickly as possible. But let me tell you something. If you want to do this stuff like Gears exclusive, Forza Horizon 6 not coming to PlayStation day one, you need to have them before you even do that stacked up waiting with a discount. There is a severe limitation to how quickly we can do that. Why? You will have more money than Sony and Nintendo put together times 10. This is the problem with Microsoft and Xbox. You literally are your worst enemy. But it's not a question of appetite. This is a privilege as a company. Oh, that is a privilege as a company. It is a challenge for us to figure out. Man, to this company, bro. I have to laugh at this company, y'all, because how can you be in the industry that long, and how can you want to make these moves for this long, and you sit here and tell me demand for, guys, listen to their words, they're always confusing. Demand for Xbox consoles is currently outstripping supply. But it is not a question of appetite. What the hell are you telling me? If you got a demand for this food, but it's not a question of appetite, what are you talking about? This is a severe limitation of how quickly we do that, but it's not a question of appetite. That is a privilege as a company. What are you talking about? It is a privilege as a company. It is a challenge for us to figure out, how is it a challenge? You just produce more. If you want to change the strategy to go back to something that you tried to steer people away to pair it on, why is that a challenge for you? You have more money than anybody. It's just manufacturing. Oh, let's back up here a little bit. You don't have the manufacturing mastery like Sony has, like Nintendo has. You limited your lifetime contracts. You moved your base years later. When Sony had their base, been moved out of China. Nintendo had their base, been moved out of China in Vietnam. But you're supposed to have all this money. This is why I tell you guys, having more money does not mean that you're more intelligent. Because how's Nintendo outselling everybody on one platform for years, dominating first party, selling 157 million on the Switch, not chasing power. It's not about more technology, but they don't have more money than Sony and they don't have more money than Microsoft. This is what I loved about the video game industry, and I always will love about it, is that it has a soul and it is not all about money. It takes way more than to succeed and win in the gaming industry. This is why I can't take Asha Sharma's statement serious when you say you want to be #1 over PlayStation and Nintendo. In order for you to do that, you have to be smarter than the Japanese. You have to be smarter than Nintendo and smarter than Sony. I want to ask you guys a serious question. Do you think that Microsoft can make such a turnaround that it looks like they're dominating PlayStation and Nintendo? How the hell is that even possible to me? You think just Gears of War exclusive and Clockwork is it? And you say in the future case-by-case basis? I don't think so. There's a lot to talk about here because this is also something to think about when it comes to Xbox Helix. Because I think Xbox Helix is in the same position as the Steam machine, where you're going to launch so expensive that it doesn't matter about the specifications. When you think about Xbox, you think about a console. A console gamer is not going to want to look at a $1,200-$1,500 price tag. A console gamer is going to think with an identity of exclusives. A console gamer is going to think with the identity of entry level. A console gamer is going to think in the identity of, what do you have that's going to make me want to get that over PlayStation and the Switch 2? And when the Helix launches and the PS6 launches, don't be surprised if the Switch 2 is still selling more in that year, because the Switch 1 did the same thing when the PS4 Pro was way more powerful and the Xbox One X was way more powerful. You see what I'm saying here, guys? There's something here that Nintendo has always understood about the video game industry. Not power, not specs, not monopolizing. They don't do any of that like Sony, and they don't even come close to Microsoft. But yet they do insane numbers, like first party numbers, 30 million, 40 million, 50 million, 25 million, 27 million, 28 million. First party. And Sony's like, I'm putting my games on PC. Microsoft, I'm putting my games on PlayStation. I'm putting my games on Switch. I'm putting my games on Steam. And I can't even get half of that. What is it that Nintendo understands about gamers? This is the company to save the gaming industry. See, the problem here is, and Michael Pachter said it, and a lot of other people understand this, Microsoft does not understand the gaming industry like Nintendo does, like PlayStation does. It wasn't a question of whether you could compete. I wasn't saying you were going to beat them and sell 100 million consoles. But what I'm saying is that if Microsoft had a better understanding of gamers and they had a gamer soul, and the company had a soul and a spirit, and they knew how to make those timing and execution moves that they made, they would have been in a significantly better position. The Series X would easily be at 50 plus million sales right now. Does that mean you're beating PlayStation? No, but would you have rather seen it at least be there or be at 60 million sales? You're still in the game big time. You're still winning in a certain way. But when I see stuff like this saying it's a challenge for us to figure it out, how are you in the industry this long and you still don't know what the hell is going on? What do you mean figure out? This just gives you the idea that they don't know what they're doing. Tell me AGN is not preaching to you in a certain way. Let's continue here. So it says, today, demand for Xbox consoles is outstripping supply. Is your supply more than a Switch 1 though? Guys, don't get mad at me. I'm just saying, you can't outsell the Switch 1. What type of supply are you talking about? Because I didn't see this during the Forza launch. Ball said, we are producing them as quickly as possible. There's a severe limitation to how quickly we can do that, but it's not a question of appetite, he said. That is a privilege as a company. It is a challenge for us to figure it out. How will this all impact Project Helix, Boss said. We are working very hard to rethink everything that we can about Helix, which is a console we are committed to shipping. You say a console, but I don't think this is going to be a console. I think this is going to be a PC OEM model with backwards compatibility aspects as a console. We are very cognizant of the ways in which we need to change as a company to make sure it is affordable, to make sure that it is flexible. He added, we are working hard to rethinking what that console model can look like, not in an exclusionary way, exclusive. Now, he's not talking about exclusives. They're just letting you know again. It's Gears, but sure. Think about this, because the Helix is not going to have the install base to be exclusive with Series X. But in an additive, it's just like an additive on. Keywords here, pay attention to this. So that as we take a look at this crisis, which may have acute effects for 2 to 2.5 years. They're telling you that AI is the focus, and they're not going to focus on hardware. Because when I think about how much I'm going to benefit and chase AI, and chase data centers, and chase Azure, and chase cloud and compute and Windows, I'm not going to have the supply for Xbox hardware, because what is that going to do to me compared to the company that is 90-something% debt? What is Xbox hardware and the install base in Xbox as a percentage of the Microsoft company? What is Nintendo as the percentage of the Nintendo company? 90-something%, maybe 100. What is PlayStation as a percentage of the Sony company? Sony told you 60%. Microsoft for Xbox, it probably ain't even 10% of Microsoft. So Microsoft is sitting here telling you that the Xbox Helix is going to be something that is going to be a hardcore optional stock. I'm not going to sit here and put millions and millions of supply in the Xbox Helix, because I need to focus on AI. I need to focus on data feed. That I'm doing this exclusive stuff, but don't think for a second that I'm doing this because it's not major. You're not making so many games exclusive. Don't think I'm doing this to sell hardware. I already proved to you that I didn't put the hardware on sale. I already proved to you that I didn't do force of bundles with Game Pass. I'm telling you that I want my money back still, and that the Gears exclusive money is going to come back through Steam. And I think down the line, you could say that 4 game strategy, but you're going to still go ahead and eventually drop it on PlayStation. I can't trust Microsoft, y'all. I'm just saying. I want you to listen to me on this. This company right here is telling you that it is a challenge for them to figure out certain things here when it comes to Xbox consoles. How? It's a challenge for you because you're mainly focused on anything other than the Xbox hardware. You don't really care about it that much. You have a major focus for the Microsoft company. You have to worry about Windows 12. You have to worry about data centers. You have to worry about cloud and compute. AI feed. I'm telling you, that's what they're telling. They're making this very prominent here. And Gears is something that they made as a last decision, along with Clockwork, along with Asha, because she wants to play that little game. But realistically, why you think it ain't an Xbox exclusive? It has to be day one on Game Pass, because you're not going to sell enough to supply the community on Xbox. The community would be terrible. Say the 360 days. You need those free millions of players that are going to go on Game Pass on PC free and on Xbox free, plus the Steam sales. That's the only way to sustain that. And even then, you're taking a huge gamble because, as I told you before, shooters die so fast in this world. There's a problem right now for Microsoft, and they're confusing people again by saying it is a challenge for us to figure out. I can go ask an Xbox gamer right now, anybody that does Xbox gamer content, I say, is this a challenge for you to figure out when it comes to... They're going to be like, no! But I'm still going to have to hold my damn position. And you know what AGN is talking about. I got to hold my position. I've been built the whole thing up being Xbox. And these fools out here talking about it's a challenge for us to figure out. I mean, thanks for being honest. At least people now know that. Why do you think there was always confusion and flip-flopping going on? Because Microsoft doesn't really know what to do with this type of game. They've trapped themselves by making Gears exclusive in a way. Because now they've opened up Pandora's box with that. when everybody thought it would have never opened up like that again. It's another trap. And they're going to need those numbers, but they're not going to share it with you. You're going to have to see the Steam concurrent players to get an idea. Xbox, forget about it. You'll get players, but you're not going to get sales. Tell me AGN is not just being honest with you. It's a concern here. And then they're mentioning how will this impact Project Helix. They're letting you know that Helix is not going to be what you think. It's not going to be massively stocked with millions of consoles at launch. Forget about it, guys. That's going to AI. In that right now they're working very hard to rethink everything that we can about Helix, which is a console we are committed to shipping. We are very cognizant of the ways in which we need to change as a company to make sure it is affordable. They're really thinking about this price right now because this market sucks. Look at the Steam machine. Look at the Steam Deck. Look at the PS5 Pro. What do you think the Helix is going to be? If it tried to launch this year, no. Impossible. It'd be like $1,500, $1,600. Make sure they're thinking hard about this because I also put myself in a position now where I say, now it's about exclusives again. What if they shut that down again? I'm telling you, this company cannot keep doing this, man. You can't keep letting this company torture you like this. You want some answers. Don't act like you don't. So, guys, become a member. Leave a tip down below. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about this discussion that we're having here. Because it's something that really needs to be talked about. AGN has to really talk about this because I'm like, hold on, man. Really, Microsoft? And it's like the videos that I make. It's like I'm not making this to clickbait you or anything like that. Of course, I make my headlines interesting. You guys like the drama, don't play with me. Because if you love Xbox, you're gonna love Xbox anyways. I'm not gonna take away your Xbox experience, and ain't nobody gonna take away my gaming experience. Let's not act like this game doesn't get interesting with AGN posting a video too, because I like all y'all's videos too. Let's keep this going, but also let's be a little bit critical because they need feedback. Why you think they spawned those questions on the Xbox console and everybody was saying exclusives? Look at what that did. Feedback. We need this. AGN is giving you feedback. And I'm not trying to give you feedback to make it worse. I'm trying to say, let's really think about this here. Does Microsoft really care about hardware like this? Or are they still just trying to carry on the game because they want to? I'm going to tell you deep down, if that was the case, these consoles would have been on sale. The Forza limited edition would have been there. You can't be the same price as PlayStation when you weren't even selling at 500. I want you to think about that type of market. It's a tough world out here. Let me know what you guys think. Later.